Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Upload, Season 4, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Okay, so first and foremost, let's start off with that opening where all the managers at Lakeview are there with, like, what's his name, JB for short. And he's talking about, like, okay, cool, we have 300 million paid uploads. He's like, now we can start to monetize this. And Alicia's like, wait, we weren't making money up until now? So I guess all the money that's been made up until this point was all going back into the business and funding it and paying for all the people. So it makes you wonder, like, the people who actually work here, how much of a pay cut were they really suffering? Like, were they only getting like pennies on the dollars type of situation? Because I guess the point is, like, yeah, we're now at the position where we are actually in the black, and now we can monetize this, because now the plan is to cut the workload with the angels and, like, lean into the whole, like, you know, AI workload of it all, which is like, it's not slavery, because that would be wrong, question mark. And then I love the camera focuses on a larger group, but let's not forget it's a black woman with Alicia, like, just in the middle, you know, with that conversation going on. But it's more like, well, I mean, there's a layer to that, but it's also like, well, you know, is it really slavery when we're talking about, like, you know, the consciousness of people, not themselves? It's like, it still is, but I'm sure you can make an argument that there's some, like, definitely morally negative, but I'm sure, like, from a general philosophical standpoint, maybe there's like a gray area into the grand scheme of that things. But it turns out that they've perfected the uploading thing, and now the plan is we're not going to upload people's consciousness in the way we did before. We're going to copy their consciousness, and we're going to charge them for, like, a monthly storage fee, which you're like, that makes a lot of sense. So that's where a lot of their income, because now now uploading isn't just going to be for the rich. Obviously, like, there's some very low rinky-dink places you can get uploaded to, obviously. But obviously, it's more so than anything the whole conversation about, like, now you're making it for everyone, and you can really, really lean into how much money you're squeezing out of people on a monthly basis for this. Like, the only way people can kind of keep that immortality and be able to kind of keep their memories, and, you know. So, yeah. But staying on the Alicia front, obviously this episode deals with her and Luke kind of working out the awkwardness of everything. And it's like, it seems like we're setting it up to be like they won't end up together, which is sad, but it's like, it is what it is, where it's like, Alicia, to be fair, Alicia's not doing things any favor where she's just avoiding Luke all the time. But I love that we had this middle ground storyline that kind of culminates and connects their story and kind of forces them to kind of come to realization about everything, when the AI is going around after catching a bouquet. Like, I'm saying that wrong, aren't I? Bouquet. Ugh, still sounds weird in my mouth. Caught that last episode, and now he's going around asking women to marry him. So what does he do instead? He makes a female version of himself, which I kept looking. I'm like, why does the actress who plays that look so familiar? And I saw her name at the end of the credits, and it's who I thought it was. Her name's, I'm going to butcher her name. I'm going to say Anja Savic might be how you pronounce it, but I'm probably butchering it, especially like her last name. Might even be getting her first name wrong. But, like, I've seen her in a couple of things. If you ever seen the Nancy Drew show on the CW, she played, I believe her character's name was Odette. She was a ghost. She was Scarlet in Big Sky, if you've ever seen that. She was definitely in one, I think what most recent thing I've seen her in, I think she was in an episode of Tracker on CBS, but I want to say that was the most recent thing I'd seen her in, maybe. Either way, I was just like, it kept bothering me the entire time. I'm like, I know this actor, and I just can't place where I know her from. But it's all lovey-dovey, and it is kind of this weird thing. You know, I always go back to that robot, that robot chicken joke. It's not gay, it's masturbation. Because it's like, you are, well, in that case, it was like, what's the actor's name? Is it Hal Sparks? He was making out with, like, basically a blow-up doll version of himself. This is like, you're making out with a female copy of yourself. You still can make the argument, it's just, I guess you could make the argument, it is masturbation. It's just the stranger edition of masturbation instead of, like, regular masturbation. But, like, they're making out, and it's kind of cute, and they're feeling on each other's faces. Poor guy in the elevator, like, all right, can you take me to this floor? It's like, oh, how about we press the button together? Oh my God, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you knew that I was gonna say that. And they're kissing and making out all over him, and it's like, oh, that sucks. And then just when elevator guy was about to propose to her, she's like, yeah, I think we should see other people. He's like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, like, she's like, I'm more interested in bartender guy. She's like, all you ever want to do is talk about buttons, but he wants to talk about his favorite drinks. It's like, how is that any different? She's just like, no, like, she's like, if it makes you feel any better, when I'm making out with him, it's almost like you're making out with him too. He's like, this is like the worst day ever. Because there is so many layers to how effed up that is. Because it's like, basically, in all intents and purpose, you left you for you in that situation. And it's like, it is kind of effed up where you're just like, oh, I made a female copy. You literally came from this version of me and you left me for that version of me. And it's like, eventually you're going to get bored of him and then you're going to move on to the other version. I mean, I wonder, will he eventually get to the point that the AI girl like ends up splitting off and make her own like, how deep down the rabbit hole we're going to go. But it ends up being this interesting conversation that comes up later on where it's kind of like, you know, the AI guy's like, oh, maybe I should make a girlfriend who won't leave me. And she's like, and Alicia's like, yeah, but if you did that, you'd be a monster. He'd be like, well, he's like, yeah, it would be. Because it's like, she has her own autonomy and it's okay that she doesn't want to be with you. Just enjoy that the moment you had together. So she's having this moment where AI guy is lamenting his feelings. Alicia's there to help ease his pain. Luke is there to be a buddy because he's going through it too. Because, you know, Lucy had her offhand remark of he's a machine and why is he so heartbroken? Get over it. And then Luke's like, well, you're a machine, and storms off after he had a life coaching session with Ingrid, because they've moved away from the therapy dolls because now they've cut that into funding, and now it's like, right, she's just going to be a life advice person because you don't need actual qualifications to give life advice. And for her, it's like, well, it's literally everything I want to do. It's like I get to talk to somebody about something and they kind of have to listen to what I say, especially for her because she's like, oh my god, I've always wanted to change literally everything about you, Luke. And so it becomes this larger conversation, you know, circling it all back. And like I said, connecting it to Alicia and Luke's story of you just kind of have to appreciate, like, yeah, we're not going to be together, but we can at least enjoy that moment that it happened. So I think it's a good thing for Luke so he can stop lamenting over this and kind of potentially find his way forward. Who knows? Maybe in the grand scheme of things, they still might end up at the end of the season. We still got half the season left, but it feels like that's kind of saying goodbye to that. Like there never will be anything more than that. Like we're just going to end up with different people, but you never know how life could end up, where it's like you both might go your separate ways and then ultimately, funny enough, find your way back to each other. You never know. And it's like, oh, the AI guy's like, how long do I have to feel like this? And it's like, well, you basically take however long you were together and you cut it in half. He's like, oh my god, I gotta feel like this for 2 more hours. I was like, oh, you bastard. But then it's like, he's like, oh, it's a good thing you guys never went through a heartbreak like this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, just keep drinking your beer, buddy. So I just thought that was kind of a nice little thing. Obviously, we have Nora also adamant about like all that she said about like, no, Nathan is still alive and he's reaching out to me and I just need to find a way into Lakeview to try and find him. And so Alicia kind of was like, all right, I'll try to sneak you in. And she goes there, runs into Tinsley, who's like, hey, we're both going through it. You know, Widow Sisters is like, first and foremost, Tinsley, neither you nor me were married to Nathan. Also, you were never in a relationship with him. And she's like, yeah, I was. In my heart, I'm like, there's so much heartbreak going around. Like Ingrid and Copy Nathan are the only ones that seem to be in a happy, committed relationship. Literally everyone else's relationship is like in the gutter, like either it's just not happening or it did happen and you're just in a situation where you thought the person you loved, it was dead. So she ended up blowing up Copy Nathan's like phone because she kept being like, yo, you lied to me, leaving messages. I was like, that didn't even cross my mind last episode to think that he would be lying. I just thought maybe he was being lied to as well, which ultimately ends up being the case. But he seemed genuine, but like the way he was dodging, like, yo, I don't want to relive that memory, so I'm not going to like let you see it because it's something so traumatic. But for her, that just solidifies in her mind that like you have that much more to hide. So it's not until she ran into Nathan again and he filled her in on like what happened, his last memory of like they were put in VR and like argued and then like he doesn't remember what happens afterwards. So she immediately thinks, oh my God, he sold you out and made you the one that died and he survived. But when they looked through his memories, they were both on the same page of, we're not going to lament. These guys want answers from us. We're not going to do it. But then the real Nathan was like, hey, yo, like, I'll sacrifice myself. And AI, the copy's like, no, what are you doing? So jumping ahead a little bit, we find out later on that whole memory was faked. Because it's like, so up to what point? Well, the whole like him getting deleted thing and killed was BS, but like it seems like based on the real memory you saw, like he just got hooked up to the chair. So I'm wondering how much of that conversation was real. So does that mean the real Nathan sacrificed himself? Because Nathan and Copy Nathan and Nora had this argument earlier on her part where she's like, because she's like, Nathan would never leave me, like, you know, if it was me, like, was missing, he'd want me to go find, he'd come find me. And Nathan's like, you did go missing and I did, like, let you go, remember? Like, I remember that. I think that's more so, like, the season 2 storyline where he kind of, like, let her go. Funny enough, speaking about Tinsley, because that's when she was introduced as, like, he thought was, like, Nora, but it was Tinsley, you know, using Nora's avatar. But her retort to him about that is, well, my Nathan actually grew and became a better person while you stayed the same as being that shitty Nathan. But it's like he's grown in his own ways too. But yeah, like Nora kind of, because he felt guilty. That's why he didn't want to relive this, because he's like, I should have said something. That Nathan made the sacrifice. I didn't. I feel bad about it. And it's like, I figured like Ingrid would have her own guilt about it, but Nathan didn't really say anything. But he's been like, you know, he's been bottling up his own guilt about it, because obviously you don't want to talk about like Nathan's final moments because your own guilt and you feeling like you played a part in it by not stepping up. So of course that guilt's going to like bury itself into you and make you not want to like relive those memories, of course. And Nora's like takeaway, she was getting ushered out of the building, but I'm curious if like for her just to alleviate his guilt, he's like, yo, what do you want me to do? I believe you that Nathan's alive. Let me help. And she's like, just treat Ingrid nice, do the dishes and this and that. Like just, you know, keep everything going great with you and Ingrid. So it's just kind of like, don't sacrifice your happiness to worry about me. And like, I'll figure it out. I mean, obviously she doesn't want to have those conversations because she's about to be pulled out of the building, people nearby. You don't want them to know what you know. But I think there's also a genuine thing of like, don't worry about it. Just live a happy life. That's what you could do for both me and Nathan, is just live a happy life with Ingrid. You have your happy ending, so just keep going down that route. And since I brought her up earlier, we have Tinsley, being the first one where they're like, oh my God, go over there. Like, you know, we're not going to upload anyone to like the free Workload or whatever. There's donuts over there. And Tinsley's like, oh my God, thanks, Lucy. Goes over there and gets killed. Even Nora's like, Jesus, did she at least get to have, didn't even let her get a donut first, did you? So that sucks. And so, and then the bit later on where she's operating the elevator in the building is like, oh, Tinsley, she's like, oh, Nora, hi. Do you mind stopping by my place and watering my plant? She's like, my key's on my corpse. It's like, Jesus. Obviously, she's not actually in Lakeview, so there's no chance of her popping in and being with Nathan, even though she likes Nathan. I mean, them both being what they are probably would make that easier, but, well, once again, he's with Ingrid, so it's kind of a non-starter, but still. You got to give it to Tinsley for, like, taking it with stride, be like, oh, I'm dead, and just like, oh, well. I mean, I guess you can make the argument, like, this world has its relationship that it does with death, so, like, it kind of makes sense that she'd feel that way. But Tinsley's just kind of like a take it as it is type of situation, or type of person, so. We also had Lucy losing her job, which should come as no surprise, and be like, Alicia, they're kicking me out of bed. Alicia, I know you can see me, and just Alicia just looking the other way. And she's like, I'm your best worker or something. Like, Lucy, I don't think we've seen you do a lick of damn work the entire series. That's 4 seasons you doing absolutely nothing but just being out and about and just commenting and just being a kind of, not just kind of, just straight up terrible boss, and now just straight up terrible employee in general. So I love that. I brought it up last episode. We got to it a little bit sooner than I thought we would, but Alicia using that combat, but it's not necessarily because she learned how to fight. Probably would have ended up better for her if she did, but she ends up using those glasses to be like how it's like, oh, I don't actually have to really know how to fight. I just have to like apply what the glasses are telling me to do. But she kind of got pretty jacked up the next time we see her. It's like, well, probably would help if you actually fully knew how to fight and didn't just solely rely on the glasses. There's multiple people too, so that probably doesn't help. But because she was tracking down the information about those new machines and stuff for her quote unquote real job, and so she's still not out of the woods with this. She still has to investigate and try and find out where it is, which obviously, ties into like the Nora of it all as well, because Nora knows like it doesn't make sense for Nathan's copy to have that memory of what happened to Nathan, believing he was dead. It's like he's not lying, but Nathan isn't dead. So what's happening there? So it ends up being like she looks at the memory again because she made a copy of it. Turns out she's like, it's AI, it's faked. And so the real memory is he's hooked up to the machine that's going to take him to like the real version of Lakeview that they've kind of recently made. Like, was it like a Met Spa or something like that? Because we see that they are questioning him over and over again in his white room. And they're asking him like, oh, do you remember your first grade teacher's name or something like, your second grade teacher's name or something like that? And then like, do you know what the capital of Florida is? And then it ended up being, which is Tallahassee, which even I had to be like, wait, it is? Huh. I guess for whatever reason in my head, I associate Miami with being, but it's like Miami's like probably like the most like popular city of Florida. Saying that as someone who's never been to Florida, I dated a girl from Florida, but that's my only correlation and connection to Florida. Regardless, I went on a tangent. The whole point before I went on my diatribe is that they were testing his memories, because even Nathan's like, how long are you going to keep this up? They're like, well, until you can't answer us anymore. Because I guess the point is like to wear him down until maybe he becomes an empty husk and loses all of what makes him him. And so they can make him a blank slate so that he's no longer a danger to them. And maybe it makes it easier to pick and prod his memories and mind for what they need without him putting up much defense. It's hard to say at this point, But what caught them off guard was the Tallahassee answer, because they're like, wait, you didn't know that before. They're like, wait, are you learning? And they're like, wait, how did you know that? And he gave them the middle finger. So that could be dangerous, because that means like they're obviously not aware of Nathan somehow reaching out to Nora, but it's like the moment they find that out, they're going to potentially shut that down. But it might all be a moot point, considering Nora now knows where Nathan really is now. So that's going to be interesting to see where all that goes and find out like the true heart of like what that's really all about. Like, what are they trying to do by like wearing Nathan down like that? We'll have to wait to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.